What was DRose? What was that? Your relationship with him, one, but just also like you kind of the same thing we've been talking about, where you're not necessarily being overshadowed, but you're the guy you're not the golden child,
Yeah.
and you're coming out of Chicago at the same time as DRose, who is the Chicago golden child, still is, will always be.
For sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So like, what was that? Did any part of you, as you're going through it, like, yeah, did you respect him and like say like, this is pretty sick that like there's a kid from our city that's, doing these big things and getting talked about in this way, or were you just like, fuck that guy, like I'm better than him, or like what was your kind of mindset going through the Derrick Rose experience?
I'll go through the whole thing. I'm actually gonna give you pause. I'll give you this real comment. This is gonna be like some shit I never told before. I was like, we can cut this, but like I was like, when would I ever tell these stories? But I'll tell you. So in 8th grade, we were doing like I think there's something at my high school. It's like the best 8th graders in the state. So west suburbs goes against west side of the city, south suburbs go against whatever, and so on and so forth. So I played in the first game, like west suburbs versus this west side. So I'm like in the back and I'm seeing like a special trophy, like this big ass trophy, and it's like player of the year, and it's like a big gold trophy. I'm like, well, how could it be player of the year? Like we all don't know each other type shit. So I look on the trophy, it's like Derrick Rose. I'm like, who the hell could Derrick Rose player of the year? And I was pretty good. I'm like, is he good enough for somebody, like adults have a trophy for him at this?
Yeah.
He's that good? Who is this kid? So I remember I play in the game, I sit down, and then next thing you know, literally he plays all these crazy dunks, all this crazy, like he has a whole gym on fire.
Yeah.
Go to freshman year, I'm like, bro, for whatever reason, there's this, like the kid Derrick Rose is a problem, but like he's not playing varsity. He can't play varsity because his high school coach doesn't allow freshmen to play varsity. So whatever. So that builds up more of the hysteria. So by the time he starts his sophomore year or whatever, killing DRose. Like even me, I'm Derrick Rose. So as you get older, I'm only playing sophomores myself. As we start getting older, the elements start taking over, and I think like my junior year, I'm having a great year. I'm top 25. I'm moving into like the top rankings of like, number 2 pick, number 1, like number 2 in the state, number 1. Demetrius number 2. He moved out the way. I was up there. So they put on a game at like Northwestern. It's supposed to be like number 1 versus number 2, city versus sophomore, city versus suburb classic. Kind of the shit where Greg and them played.
They played Shire, right? Like
no, they played Jake Pullen and them.
Oh,
and
okay.
Brian Carwell, because Brian Carwell is 7 feet and all that.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, whoever they played didn't matter. So we play in that big game, and I remember, and I swear to God, this isn't lying. I remember everybody was like trying to see who was like pretty legit, who was going to be. But DRose is the truth. So he hits like legit 4 straight threes to start the game on Dimitri. He calls a timeout. We call a timeout. And he's like, walks right up to me and looks me dead in my face and says, "You a bitch." Like legit, you a bitch. And like, it was a big stage. It was like, man, like I'm kind of sitting here like,
yeah, you're really just like,
I'm like, everybody's trying to see if I'm this good. This man just started off with 12 points in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And he calls me a bitch in front of my friends. Like, so I'm like, so I go to timeout. I'm like, bro, this dude is so good. And he called me a bitch. And I'm like, I'm not a bitch. So like, I'm going out trying to just create some type of gumption to go up against this superhero. I'm like, man, do something. So I'm like, just start cursing. I'm like, you got me fucked up. DRose ain't shit. You not shit. And I just start screaming that, like, as soon as I start coming out. So the end of the first half occurs, right? And I think we're going in a half, and we're at the free throw line, and DRose, they're up like 15. DRose has like, I have like 6. DRose probably has like 20. So he's at the line, and he's like, "Where you at?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Where you at?" "You ain't shit, boy." That's literally, so he's like, even more. I'm like, bro, this superhero is also like punking me.
And you, to reiterate, you are a sophomore. You're a
junior.
No,
I'm a senior. So now I'm a senior. So this is number 1 versus number 2.
You're both seniors.
Yeah.
Okay.
So mind you, I wasn't ever ready for him ever prior to that.
Yeah.
So I go into halftime. We come back. Long story short, I go at DRose. I scored 25 straight, right? Like literally all, and mind you, this is a high school game, so I probably scored like 23, 25 straight in like a 16-minute spurt.
Yeah.
So we both end up with 30. DRose has to win. You could say that was the closest anybody ever came to competing versus DRose. So the city was kind of on fire. You know me, I was talking shit.
Yeah.
It was like it was at Northwestern, 8,000 people there. So like,
yeah.
If someone went viral, that was the most that went viral in 07. So we play versus each other three weeks later to go down state. So mind you, I'm in the papers. Our argument gets to the papers or whatever, so everybody's waiting. So the game's at UIC. So mind you, it's like 12 or 13,000 people there. So like the whole city's there. So it was to go down state, and obviously we had a close game, but clearly the great DRose reigned supreme, went on to beat us. Only team ever to win 2 straight state titles downstate. So I've always been on the side of being like, bro, that's Derrick Rose, that's that dude. But in between competing, somehow we came up with like some random fake beef. Or enough where I crossed the line where like there had been moments where we would just see each other like literally outside.
Yeah.
And we just walk right past each other.
Really?
And like we were like 22, 23. I remember when I played my second year in the league, we're playing versus the Bulls.
Yeah.
And I come back to getting booed at home. Why? Because he showed the article of me beefing with DRose 4 years prior.
When you were 17.
17.
You're 17 years old.
And then when it came down to it, and this is how big of a deal DRose is. I'm talking about every time I touch the ball, they booed. Like I'm talking about if I walk the streets, people are like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm talking about I'm at the movies with my mom. My mom, she almost swung on somebody. Like, we're at the movies, and dudes are in the movies like, you shouldn't have said shit. You shouldn't have said shit.
That's fucked up. As a resident of Chicago now, I am going to disavow all of that. And I'm going to say that I have the authority. I live here now.
Yeah.
I represent the city of Chicago. I think a lot of the city turns to me when to say, Titus, how should we feel about something since you're a Chicago guy now? I'm gonna disavow all of this, and I'm gonna say anybody that gives you shit now is an asshole. You're a kid from Chicago. You're like an ultimate Chicago. You and DRose are both great stories. Yeah. You should both be celebrated by the city, and you should both be. Yeah. That's insane. And also, like, of course you talk shit to each other. Of course there's like not a beef, but like there's a competition. There's a rivalry. This is how this works. This is all insane.
And when you come, and also too, it's like a going out. This is part of our culture. You have to go outside. Like, do you understand? Like somebody runs, and I'm not saying anything. I just comprehend you can't move back. And I remember, shout out to DRose. I mean, literally, if you go back and look at the papers from 2011, it's gonna say war words, every article, everything.
Yeah.
So like people don't talk about it, but think about wanting to grow up and be in Chicago and play for the Bulls. Yeah. Literally be a diehard Bulls fan. Literally think you could play anywhere because you're from the city of Chicago. Legit taking a bus from the west side all the way to the burbs, like going everywhere, like having to deal with the suburban thing, kicking every Chicago dude's ass.
Yeah.
To be and then when I don't move back or don't get off my step like I shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's hell to tell the captain. And like that was one of the times when I realized, like, no, you just got to accept the role of being villain. It's 20,000 people. I'm playing in the NBA. I'm at the crib. Like, even my girlfriend at the time, like, I'm up all night. I'm like, yo, it's going to be hell tomorrow. She's like, why? Like, it should be good to know you don't understand. They're going to boo me. They're bringing up some old shit with DRose, and you don't quarrel.
That's crazy.
You don't quarrel with DRose. But this is one thing I will say. DRose got hurt. I believe an injury, like the injury definitely affected it, but we were able to beat the AC, beat the first round team, and we went to we took Boston in Game 7 with Kevin Garnett and everything like that. But when it came to the city of Chicago, it's always been love and always had my people. But one thing I will say was just like, I think in private I would get my respect, but like when it comes out to screaming like who comes from here, who comes from there, like stop. Like I ran through the city with the Proviso West tournament. I went 3-4 years only losing 3 games with the great DRose. When it comes down to when we talk about, I'm not even talking about legend or whatever else. Like I went on there to win National Player of the Year. Yeah. After breaking the back.
Exactly.
I went on there and I came from like, where I came from to be able to do something dope.
It's fucking insane.
No, it's fucking insane.
Dude,
so
for
when
real.
you tell part of the shit that occurs when I got booed at the crib, It has to tell about the greatness of Derrick Rose, but at the same time, they're calling it bullshit. And
I mean,
I wanted to cry. Like 19,000 people. I was like, bro, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna do shit. But when I get a chance and we win.
But that's the thing. It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if you look back on it, you're like, maybe I shouldn't have beefed with it. Like, not even beef, but like I shouldn't have like stepped up and tried to like be competitive. Like, no, of course you should. Like, in what world would a guy calls you a bitch, or like a guy, is like, I'm here to kill you tonight. Or you're just like, okay, go ahead, kill me then. Yeah. Like, that's not how that's not how competition works. So like,
but I think
like you shouldn't be knocked down a peg or whatever because you were one of the few people that could like rise to his level. I don't mean like that, but I mean,
yeah, that was the closest I've ever been to DRose. That was the closest I've ever been. Yeah, I don't.
You were one of the few people that could like
compete.
Because if Derrick Rose played me in high school, maybe there's like a brief moment where I would have been like, oh fuck no, man, I'm gonna and then like that snap of a finger, it doesn't work. But for you to play well against them and compete like that, like I don't. That's insane. That's insane to me that you don't get more love in Chicago, because I felt like that to me, your story is, and his story too, not to take away from his story, but I just feel like your story is incredible. It's insane because he was, it's like we've talked about this whole time. Like he was a sure thing. You were not. And I don't say that to put you down or like what you were in high school. It's the truth. Like everybody was, I'm in Indiana or I'm in Ohio, whatever. Like I knew who Derrick Rose was. I did not know who Evan Turner was. Everybody knew who Derrick Rose was. Everybody knew Derrick Rose was going to be in the NBA. He was going to be all this shit. Nobody knew that about you per se, and for you to go on to do what you've done is like, it's fucking wild.